Last speaker, so please, if you're just walking past everything, to the last speaker, is Dominic Kavakil, the President of the Shinti, and he'll be speaking on current instabilities, Iran, etc. in the Middle East.
Ibs, take off. Ibby.
I'm not going to speak for too long because you've been standing out in the cold. I'm not going to speak for too long because you've been standing out in the cold for quite a long time, but I want to speak about the situation with regards to Iran and maybe other bits and pieces, because as if the carnage that has been caused already in the Middle East wasn't enough for the White House. As if the carnage that they've caused in Iraq, with over 1 million people dead, over 2 million people been displaced, wasn't enough what they wanted to do already. As if the carnage they've caused in Afghanistan with thousands of people killed wasn't enough already. As if what happened in Lebanon in 2006 over the summer wasn't enough, then why are they continuing on today? Why are things still happening? And actually we're living in a time now where the war on terror, as it's been described, shows no signs of going away, shows no signs of slowing down, but actually showing all the signs that it's going to be getting larger, that it's going to be broadening itself out, and it's got new targets in its gaze. And the drums of war are continuing to beat. The drums of war that have beaten from the White House and have beaten since 2001 when Afghanistan was first invaded are still continuing to be heard today around the world. And we're looking at the possibility now of more wars taking place. You spoke, MQ spoke about Pakistan just now, and I want to speak about Iran, another country which has been in and out of the news quite a lot over the last few years. And people might remember in 2002, when George Bush came out and made his famous speech where he spoke about an axis of evil. And he spoke about a number of countries, and he said Iran was a part of that axis of evil which is causing death and destruction and global terrorism. Well, obviously the United States have been slightly bogged down over the past few years in other countries and the other wars they've been doing, but they haven't forgotten about Iran. Iran's always been well on the map of war, and we're looking now that the possibility of a war against Iran is getting ever bigger. We've heard over the last few years a number of accusations against Iran, and they've ranged across a wide range of issues, and I think there's been two themes which have kind of highlighted everything that's been spoken about against Iran. The themes are of hypocrisy and the themes are of lies. We've heard about Iran's nuclear technology, how Iran is trying to build a nuclear weapon. Well, to that I say, if the United States is allowed to have nuclear weapons, the only country which has ever bombed anyone, if Israel is allowed to have nuclear weapons, if many countries around the world are allowed to have weapons, why is Iran not allowed to have nuclear weapons? And don't get me wrong, I personally am against nuclear weapons. I want to see a world without nuclear weapons, without any war. But there's hypocrisy. And once again, we've been hearing about Iran trying to fund and empower terrorists across the region. We were told when Lebanon was invaded in 2006, there was Iran who was giving weapons to Hezbollah. Well, I say something else to that as well. I say, what about the hypocrisy? If the United States of America has the right to fund and arm the state of Israel, to kill innocent Lebanese people, to kill innocent Palestinian people like it has done since 1948, why does Iran not have the right to fund those people who are resisting the occupation? And as I said before, I want to see a world without war. But it's about hypocrisy and lies. And if the United States of America thinks they can stand up and tell the world how to be democratic, without realizing themselves that they are the ones who are doing the biggest human rights abuses in the world, from Iraq to Afghanistan to Guantanamo Bay, where innocent people are being rounded up and killed and tortured. Who are the United States to talk about democracy? Who are they to talk about freedom? Who are they to talk about human rights? And no one. And so we're also told, that another reason why Iran should be bombed is because of the human rights abuses that take place against the Iranian people from the Iranian regime. And I know from first-hand experience, from my family know from first-hand experience what problems exist in Iran. Of course there are a lot of problems. And we said in 2003, when people said Iraq should be attacked because Saddam Hussein is a bad person and that's the reason why they should attack that country, we said back then, it doesn't matter the nature of the Iraqi regime. What does matter actually is who are these people to try and say that they have a better alternative. I believe in self-determination of people across the world. It's up to the Iraqi people to resist their own country. I believe it's up to the Iranian people to resist their own leaders. That's something that is absolutely intrinsic and more important than anything else for me. Nobody has the right to tell people how they should live their lives, so that's what I say to that. And now we see an increased danger of war. People talk about the election of Barack Obama in the United States and how all of a sudden things are going to change and things are going to get better. But you've got to consider Barack Obama, who's put in charge as his chief of staff when he takes power, a Zionist and a former member of the Israeli Defense Force. That for me does not show signs of peace. That for me does not show signs of a slowing down of the war on terror. In fact, for me, it makes the world even more dangerous and even more scary to live in. And that's why we're here today, because for what's happened, the world over the last 5 years, or over the last 7 years, since this war of terror has begun, we've seen the world become an increasingly dangerous and unstable place. It's not good for anyone, for any normal people, no matter where you're living. It's not good in this country. We've seen attacks on our civil liberties and our civil rights in this country as a result of the war on terror. And you know, everyone's already spoken about the problems that exist in the Middle East because of this war of terror. And that's why we're here today, to try to do something about it, to try and stop it. And trying to raise a few very simple, very easy to understand slogans. Troops out of Iraq, troops out of Afghanistan, no war in Pakistan, no war in Iran, and freedom for Palestine. Thank you.
Occupation is a crime, free Iraq and Palestine! Occupation is a crime, free Iraq and Palestine!
I'd just like to thank everyone that's came out and listened. I hope you've learned about what's going on in the world. It's not all glamorous like the newspapers are showing us. Also, I'd like to thank all the speakers individually. It's not easy to come up on a cold day like this and speak. And if you want to get involved in any of the societies, Stop the War, Swears, any of the societies, come speak to me or one of the other speakers.